I know you hate me, but I'll ask anyway. Won't you come with me to a place in a little town? The only way to get there is to go straight down. There's no bathroom and there is no sink. The water out of the tap is barely Tuesday. All right. Good morning. Good morning. Hope everyone's feeling well. It's 6:33. It is March 5th. It's Thursday. It's been a very fluid week. A lot of things to think about. Sometimes if you think too much, you don't respond. You don't do what you got to do. You don't adjust. You don't move the feet. That's why we get prepared. That's why we get up early, and that's why we get our mind right. That's why you want to wake up in the morning. You want to do a little bit of a workout. You want to think about your positions, think about multiple plans, and then let the market tell you which one it's going to go with. By the way, my name is Scott Redler. I'm the Chief Strategic Officer of T3Live.com. Welcome to today's morning call. I hope everyone's feeling well. Listen, definitely today was a tough week. Lots of ways to lose money, lots of ways to make money, but overall, that's what the job is, right? This job's not for everyone, and if you're having trouble, take a step back, take your size down, and figure it out. We came in on Monday, right? Monday, it seemed like, hey, we went to war with Iran. The market should be down huge. And guess what happened? Market was down 40, 50 handles, went green. Things felt well, or things felt good. I know for me, I was pretty risk down. I bought some things on Monday, had a really good day, took home a third, and then all of a sudden, futures down 120 on Tuesday. You're like, holy cow. Are we going to finally break this range? Are we going to finally go to the downside? I don't want to sit and go in the water, So basically, we opened below 675, right? This is below 675. Every bear out there was talking about 655, talking about lower. It's all friggin' talk. What happened? After a half an hour, we took back 675, which is this, took back 677, which was the 100-day, and came off the lows. So right there, you had a decision to make. Do you cover your shorts, maybe put on some hedges, and look for some longs that were acting well, whether it was higher lows in software, whether it was crypto that was acting different, whether it was mega cap tech that held where it had to. And then yesterday, a little bit of a push right back up into the range. And then you had tech acting well. You had all different types of things happening. What are the things happening? Well, you had, red dog reversals, which was a way to make money. You had a few things show some relative strength, which was a tactic that we use every day. And then you had a few gap fills, for cash flow. So anyway, with that being said, here we are right back in the range, holding 682 keeps us in here. Maybe we constrict a little bit. And then all of a sudden, hey, this might even turn into a wedge for another day. But anyway, that's the SPYs. Qs did the same thing. What did you guys do? What did you do on Tuesday? We came in, okay, we went below 594.76, 593, went all the way to 591. We were supposed to hit the 200-day. We were supposed to go down to 580. What happened? We didn't. We readjusted. Qs took back 593, 594, took back 599. And boom, right back in the range. Did you adjust? Did you short the entire way up the last 2 days? Or did you say, hey, let me get a little bit more rebalance. Let me find a few things to do. Let me make a little bit of money. And let me get back in rhythm, because it's very, very easy to fall out of rhythm with the market. The IGV software was the whipping boy of the market. And guess what? Here, okay, this was last week. Remember the red dog reversal up. And then into the weakness, IGV made 3 higher lows. I just showed you the SPYs and the Qs made a lower low. IGV made a higher low. That told you that, hey, maybe there's some more money to be made here. Okay, and that's what that was, right? So that's one tactic. And then you had other tactics. What tactics were though? Your little gap fills, right? Amazon, which has been really, really tough. What did it do? Look at that. It held 202 and then pushed above 211, 212 to fill this gap. That's why I always talk about gap pivots, because once you're in a gap and you stay above the gap pivot, there is cash flow. So you could have made money in Amazon, not with the red dog reversal, but a push into the gap. And then in a different sector, after Bitcoin change character on Sunday and Monday, look at Robinhood. Robinhood, gave you a red dog reversal here, right? That's one where it went below 70.43, came above. That was tactical. Learn the red dog reversal, give you a push up. Then it seemed like I got stopped out actually of Robinhood when it went below 73. But guess what? It went to 72.25, came back above, showed a higher low, and you could have got back in. You could always readjust and go back in. And then yesterday, a lot of guys, including some of my little younger individuals, saw the strength in crypto, saw the gap here. This gap was to 85, right? That was that. And, you didn't even have to be long Robinhood coming into yesterday, and you could have made for yourself a bunch of money as it pushed into the gap, made money. Now, Robinhood's giving a little bit of follow through. I'm just saying these things happen. You have to know all different types, and now you're getting some follow through on news of a credit card today. So right there, lots of different ways to trade the market. How you doing? And again, it's never easy. Sometimes it's easier than others. Sometimes you're in a trending market. You could be in 20 names. You can massage them and make a lot of money. And sometimes you need to be tactical the way we've been. And then another tactic, right? What's relative strength? Something goes green in a sea of red. Okay, like Tuesday when markets are down 100 handles, you gravitate there. So a lot of people gravitated to ASTS. Why? Because ASTS, okay, after holding 77-ish, took back all the moving averages before the market even reversed. So a lot of guys made a lot of money with this push, and then yesterday you had your day three. So no red dog reversal here, didn't get below it, but it made a higher low, and then it pushed and took back all the moving averages. That's another way to make money. How many ways do you know to make money? You got to figure out which ones you do well and go with them. Okay. Rocket Lab, some people think it's going to play catch up. Well, in order for Rocket Labs to play catch up, it's got to get above this area. And there's 78, but you're always better off going with the leader. It is very selective, Blair. You're 100% right. Not everything's going when things are going. Not everything's going on the day you want it to go. Again, Tuesday was very tough. Monday gave a false sense of security. I came in with a lot of positions on Tuesday also. So I thought, who knows, maybe we break the range, and we didn't. I adjusted. I lost a little bit of money. I was okay with it. Then yesterday had a really good day because I was more balanced. So now you have the SPYs are basically flattish, which makes sense, right? You could probably see an inside day, you would think, right? An inside day would make some sense, right? Hold 682 maybe, hold inside here. You have a big range move, so digestion would make some sense. NVIDIA is okay. I'm in NVIDIA also still too. Yet NVIDIA was a good day trade yesterday. It's still just in the bottom end of the range. NVIDIA, it's coming into the moving averages. I have small, it's down small, 55 cents. So we'll see, does it go green and get a push? It's still, this bar is still kind of controlling it, a little bit there. Avago is up pretty well. Had a decent report. Guys traded it after hours, made some money. Where to get to? Oh, look at that, 330, 339. This is what, 336-ish, and this is 352. So not a bad push there. Some guys like, what about Apple? Apple is barely hanging on here. So if you're long, you better, use 260 as a spot. You want me to look at LRCX? LRCX is a semiconductor. I haven't looked at this in a while. Look at that, though. Look at that topping tail. This topping tail was your excuse to get out of Dodge. Did it get above and stay above? No. Topping tail out of the way, broke the 8-day, and gave you a little bit of a corrective move to the 50-day like everything else. All right, so technicals happen here. Netflix has been a great trade. Netflix went from a really tough, tricky trade to the downside to finally, making its move. And there you go. So you could have done a lot of different ways. Netflix, this candle held in a day of weakness. I remember that relative strength. People are like, I'm going with Netflix. I'm buying the $80 calls. Then you had a gap up. First gap up that didn't get filled. Then you had, you move up. Obviously, they bowed out of the takeover race. And then some people are like, hey, I'm just going to be long versus 90. Just like, the pro earnings gap play that we do, or the peg play that Trader Stewie has, or this and that. Well, it gave you one, right? Gapped up, held, and went all the way to the 200-day. So what's it doing today? Now it's now it's not as cool. Not to say it's cool, but you just had a move from 75 to 99. Now everyone's getting bullish on Netflix. Probably a little trickier now. But anyway, Crowd coming to life. Yeah, a lot of my guys made good money trading crowd after hours. I would, but at this point, kind of coming right into this area. What's it doing this morning? What's crowd doing? Real good trade crowd was when it went through 394 yesterday. But anyway, that guys were trading this after hours. I was actually giving like a clinic on how to trade, earnings plays after hours, and a lot of guys made good money trading it after hours. But then knowing that 394 was the area couldn't get through after hours gave them a great pivot to trade yesterday. Yeah, Cisco's another gap trade. Cisco's trying to fill that gap. There was a bunch of them, different trades on different days. That's why you have to have different tools in your tool chest to use when you're tactical and you're not letting the market make you money because you don't know what the market's going to do. So I get it. Some people ask me about Iron. Iron had a good day yesterday. They're doing an at-the-money offering to fund their purchase of a lot of NVIDIA GPUs. It's probably great for the long term, but it might mute the action a little bit. UNH, yeah. So everyone's pointing out the gap fills. That's good. That's what the 630 Club's all about, trying to make people money. Look at that. This is a big gap for UNH. Someone pointed this out yesterday. It's got to get above 294. Where's UNH? You could put UNH on the spectrum here. On the spectrum for UNH, isn't that? That's like a play on words. But anyway, UNH, yeah. So here's UNH. Kind of get above this to get in the gap, like Cisco, obviously different stock did, like Amazon did here, gap play, and like Robinhood did, gap play. So last week I was talking about all the red dog reversals. I can give you a day trade or maybe a new active swing or sequence, and then you have gap plays. And then next week might be a different play, but in order to know these tactics and execute, you got to get up early. You got to have your iced coffee. I already did my 25-20, did a nice workout, did it to a little 90s music today. I appreciate those of you who are joining Red Dog Mindset. If you join Red Dog Mindset, you will never lose the 630 Club. The 25-20 with the 630 Club could help you get ready for the day. Sometimes there's more keys to the day. Sometimes there isn't. Sometimes there's great trades. I went over this Meta trade yesterday. I'm like, can Meta finally, get you a trade besides buying versus 634? Can he get through a tight area? And it did. Guys made good money. Guys like, hey, Red Dog, I made, $4,000 in Meta and your thing cost $10 a month and you went over that there. Like, okay, $10 a month. This is $5 a day. Anyway, oil is scary. Is it scary? Let's see where USO is. Yeah, oil had a big move. Yeah. It's probably not going to hold up there. The narrative changed on oil. I would not be buying oil here. If anything, I would be selling into that. XLE, got a little louder. Every single person out there started saying you have to be in the XLE, and they sold strength twice. That's why I played with the 8-day. Morning's got thoughts on Tesla. Tesla's hard. Tesla's still not special. Tesla, Joe asked about Tesla. I'm in a little Tesla. Gave you a little bit of a red dog reversal also. Gave you a bit of a decent candle yesterday. It held the 200-day 3 different times. It doesn't mean it's going to get traction. It keeps getting into here and keeps failing. I don't know what it's going to take this high is 408.33. It'd be nice if it can go green, push through, and give you another trade. It's just a range trade. There are so many trades out there that are just range trades. So you need to know your day count rules. You could be in there day 1, maybe you get a day 2, and chances are you have to be a little bit more careful after that. Google hasn't been great. Google changed right here. Remember this inside wedge, broke to the downside, retested, sold down, just did a little bit of a double bottom. I don't know. Google is not the same Google that we had, moving up before it broke the moving averages, but we'll see. Some guys could say, hey, I'm going to be long verse. Remember, long verse is a way to be in something versus an area, not having to pay, strength. So this is 296. You could be long verse there. Microsoft's been great. Microsoft shows you how something that was horrible, which it was since the double top, since the trend lower, gave you a nice little setup. These 4 days could have made your month or your quarter. The first quarter 2026, as bad as Microsoft was, could have made your entire quarter. Here, remember this red dog reversal we had on the Alpha team? This was a big trade for me. And then all of a sudden gave you your day after. Day 3, you're selling. not buying day count rules. Buy day one, add day two, sell day three. That's what that was. Then if you were lighter, you're able to buy versus a higher low. Then it held, and now, now that's all it could have been. Then you move on. You look for the next piece of business. You'll see. Schlumberger, yeah, that was horrible. I tried to do Schlumberger as a power play, and we got out of it, which is good. Wasn't Exxon, wasn't Chevron. I tried it, and from like right around here, and then we got stopped out because it didn't work well. Didn't work as well. Look how well Chevron went. And Exxon. Chevron broke this downtrend, went all the way right up to the highs here. Put a little bit of it's a little extended. So anyway, so the trade desk is living under all moving averages. Big news, and now what? All right, that's good. That's a good question, Scotty New Jay. So trade desk, TTD, big news that the CEO bought a lot of shares. Okay, so that's good. Trade. This was a January effect stock, by the way. That so far it didn't work. So big gap down, came up to it. Big gap down, came up to it, and now, trade desk already kind of gave you a little bit of move off the lows. So when you open down in reverse like it did, okay, that's telling you maybe it's washed out. And then what happened? It held 50% of that candle right here. Okay, so that's 50% of the candle. So if you missed the reversal, you're able to buy here, higher low, higher low, higher low. And now TTD is up a bunch. There's news. It's up 17%, 29.66. Yeah, if you haven't bought Trade Desk yet, you can't buy it into the 50-day. This was your reversal. This was your broken bounce. Here's based on the news. You have to be a seller into there for now. And then what you want to do is you want to see how much of today's gap holds and then see what kind of digestion there. So it's fine. Yeah, Tesla's fine. It's not special. Do you like any AI energy infrastructure stocks? Give me one or two and I'll look at it for you. If I look at TRMB, sure. You're up. You're on the 630 Club. You're asking me questions. TRMB, what's it doing this morning? Let's go. Let's see. Sorry. TRMB. Flattish. Trimble. It peaked its head above the moving averages, has some room like everything else. It's been a broken name. I don't know much about it. It's got some room, I guess. Not special. If you got out of it when all the moving averages broke here and this inside wedge broke to the downside, here and get out of the way, you had a chance to buy some here. And, now maybe it could be a little bit better. Palantir has been really good. Palantir changed character. I pointed that out last week. Palantir made higher lows while the market was still making a new low. On Tuesday, the SPYs made a lower low to that range, and so did the Qs. And what did Palantir do? On Tuesday, held. Right? It held higher. So that showed some relative strength versus the relative weakness it was showing. And now it's just to manage the trade. NBIS, choppy as hell, trying to rebuild. A lot of people love this name. Made a little bit of a higher low. It's just a range-bound trade. Rebuilding like most things. INDO, gross. Just one of those trades that if you trade the small caps and you trade the volume, I'm not taking anything away. I was at Traders for a Cause this weekend, and there were hundreds of people who say they trade for a living shorting small cap gap ups. So I bet you all the guys that I hung out with this weekend were shorting this. Maybe, buyer here shorting it into this spike up, and now it's back down to $4. They make a living shorting the pump and dumps. So that's great. I don't do that. I don't trade the pump and dumps. I don't, every now and then there'll be a big name on volume or do whatever, but that's what they do. KLB Destination says, long-term idea, Tesla, 590 or 600 here at 405. Depends on where. All right, anyway. Bitcoin, let's go over Bitcoin. Bitcoin, I was here on Monday with you, and I was like, look at the futures down 40 handles. Bitcoin is flat. Might be changing character. Might be time to look at coin, hood, when we put those on. And then Bitcoin itself wound up giving yourself a really nice move, right? Look at that. So on Wednesday, or Monday, today's Thursday, the futures were down 40, and Bitcoin used to be down with Bitcoin, with the futures. Same way on Sunday, when they were down Saturday, they came back Sunday. I'm like, this might be the change that everyone's looking for. And then it took back the moving averages, went to 74,000, which is what I said yesterday. But everyone's like, where could Bitcoin go? I'm like, probably to 74,000, and now it's digesting again. And in the meantime, Coin gave you a great trade, a little inverted head and shoulders pattern through the 50-day, and now Robinhood is, paying some bills. Tactical trades. Look for changes in character. Look for different tactics. Get yourself together. These are all things that are going to keep you in the business for the long term. At 6:52, I got to jump. The 5:20 leads into the 6:30 club. The 6:30 club is 20 minutes, where I try and set up the day, talk about what's happening, give you guys levels. Sometimes it's easy for me to throw a bone in your boat. I tell you what I'm looking to do, and you guys make money. If you love the 6:30 club and you like it Monday through Thursday, I'm also thinking about doing more Fridays, only for those who sign up for the Red Dog Mindset in the premium, right there, the button, subscribe button, subscribe, $10 a month. You will never lose a 6:30 club, and you could start doing the 5:20 with a 25:20 and get everything else that goes alongside it. I'm sick of the bots on Twitter. I want to be able to respond to people. I want to be able to have conversations with my community around the world. Can't do that on the public Twitter anymore the way it is. I can't even look during the day because everything is attached. I have bots attached to every little tweet that I do. So by having a subscription service, I could actually talk to people and give you guys a little personal attention besides keeping your mind right. But anyway, Scott, will you teach how to fish for shore? I that's what I do. Every weekend you'll see education that I gave years ago that I charged $7,500 for a week, and we're giving it to individuals right now on moving averages, chart patterns, on tactics, on the Red Dog reversal, on how to trade pro gaps. That's 5 different ways to make money teaching how to fish. And then, if you're here with me, we do it together at times. Anyway, with that being said, we'll see what today brings. See some inside action. We're not out of the woods. The news flows fluid. Manage your process. Feel good. Appreciate every day above ground. Tough times lead to better times. If you're in a bit of a rut, I get it. If you're in a hole, you know what? Chip away at it. You chip away at it day after day. All of a sudden, you start feeling good. You start getting bigger. You start getting past it. And then you could do that anytime it happens. I've been in like 3-4 holes in my career. I've been doing this for 28 years. They happen. Best feeling in the world is coming out of them and then getting your paycheck and then knowing you can handle anything. So that's why we also do hard things. Okay, selective hard helps you handle hard, help probably you handle this week because cooler heads did prevail. I'm going to go hang out at the virtual trading floor, the Alpha team, post 40 charts in there, and see what's next. Have a great, great morning. Some people just ask, what does the Alpha team look like? This is what it looks like. Everybody talking, everybody doing their thing. And this shows my positions, which isn't a whole lot, but a bunch. And I post about 40 charts in here in the morning, and we all do it together. Have a great day, my dogs. Yeah, yeah.